Happy Monday, everybody. How you doing? Did you have a good day? Kia ora, good evening. Mwiriwe, magadini. Depending on where you are best located in the universe. If it happens that you're just waking up, we want to wish you a bonjour, a good morning, mngaramutse, and I hope that you had a good night, right? Because then you are ready to take on the whole week. So, welcome to the African Mirror, and if you have missed out on our previous episodes, I just wanted to, relate to you a little bit about what, this show is all about and what the African Mirror means. You wake up in the morning and you go and, you check yourself in the mirror, you see if your hair is right on your head and if your makeup is perfect before you leave your room or before you leave your home. So the mirror in this concept is not just that, it's about your reflections when you wake up in the morning. Well, have you been good? Were you good to another person? What do you have to improve? What do you have to change? Well, the African part of this concept, actually, it's almost like viewing all the discussions that we're going to have, all the concepts that we're going to have through the African eye. Does that make sense to you? So we're gonna be just like talking and discussing, and like at the end of the day with the show, as we'll be roaring with it, you will have an opportunity to come back to us. You can tell us whether you've got feedback, you've got comments, or you disagree with us. We are not here to bring any hate. We are not here to point any fingers. My whole purpose, the crew's whole purpose, is to be able to share the knowledge about Africa so that we can give Africa its proper place in the world. Because Africa has its own values. Africa has contributed to me and you, to all of us, whether we acknowledge it or not, whether we have been suppressed or been corrupted within our own minds, because every community, I do agree, every community has got its own challenges. But because I am African and I'm from Africa, let's say Burundi, I want to be able to share what I know based on my experiences, based on what you can search, the articles out there, based on whatever is happening. So the African Mirror is going to be bringing us back, talking about the times of the colonization, talking about the cultures of Africa, talking about the food of Africa, talking about everything that is relevant with Africa. So once more, I want to welcome you to the African Mirror with your DJ host, ORIKoL. That's me. Hi. Well, tonight we are going to be talking about the legacy of the colonizer. Big topic, isn't it? And that's how we're starting. Because me, I've been in New Zealand at Orewa for more than 15 years. I've left my country. I've left my family because did I want it? Was that what I aspired to do? When I was young, did I have a dream of coming to New Zealand? It was not like that. I was forced out of my own will to leave my family, to look for safety, to leave my family, to look for a better future for myself. And the reason behind all that, we will be talking about it. Just lend me your ears, yeah? So me, I'm against the idea, and I'm actually, to put it bluntly, sick and tired of the world's view of Africa being poor, being dirty, people being dumb, or needs help, etc., etc. So before we go any further, I just wanted us to to start looking at these big umbrella words that are commonly associated whenever you hear the continent of Africa. Just a little bit. You might be sitting out there and you might be wondering, what's Africa? I'm not even going to be surprised about it, because I have met people who do not know what Africa is, right? Africa, or those who think that Africa is actually a country. Yeah, very surprising, isn't it? Africa is a continent with, I don't know, depending on where you get your statistics or where you get your information or your data. Some people say Africa is made up of 54 countries. Other people say 56. Other people say more than that. So currently, I don't know if no one knows. I don't know what's happening, but we should know that it's a continent that's got more than 50 countries, right? So let's look, first of all, into this massive umbrella classifications, that are commonly used or associated wherever you hear the continent Africa, right? We've got, like poor versus rich. We've got developed versus developing. We've got first world countries versus third world countries, yeah? So with our previous episode, we did talk a little bit about the third world countries and the third world continent that is always associated with the name Africa. But I wanted to dig deeper a little bit and get to know, where did that categorization come from? What did it mean from the beginning to what it is right now? So, looking at Wikipedia, if I might say that, because that's where I got the meaning from, because it's actually easily commonly used. You can find it anyway. I was learning that this term originated as political and as a matter of allegiance, at the time of the Cold War. Countries that were neutral were referred to as the third world countries. And as a matter of fact, back then, the whole Africa was not qualified as such, or as it is, currently viewed. Then after the Cold War, this old concept of third world countries classification changed its meaning from stating countries being neutral to an allegiance, to signifying countries that are poor and developing. And yes, this is how the world sees Africa at the moment. Poor, needing help to be developed. And if you are out there and you have seen, you have heard mentions of Africa, with dozens, like as a third world country, third world continent, then I want you to lend me your ears, because we need to be discussing some points. And this is where the mirror concept comes in, because it's not like you should go and look at yourself in the mirror. This is where I'm inviting you to actually change your reflections, change your conceptions or your perceptions of what your views of Africa, right? So I really get mad whenever everybody mentions Africa or Africans as poor, or view people like myself as poor, because I don't believe in that, right? I want to look into these little details, because at the end of the day, going back, you and I are the same, right? Regardless of the skin color. We eat the same, we use the bathroom the same, we fall in love in the same way, and we have our hearts broken in the same manner, right? Sometimes there are little things, little elements that people might use to associate, Africa with poverty. For instance, they might say, oh yeah, most of African people work barefoot, so they are really kind poor. But at the end of the day, I believe that walking barefoot actually might have some health, benefits to our bodies. There are articles, There are articles and scientists that actually may align themselves with that view. You can check it out if you want to. And that's why I'm against that idea of saying that because most of Africans walk barefoot, then they must be really poor, right? So let's move on from that point. Secondly, you might find like people saying, or these international NGOs saying that we're gonna go to Africa and build them wells and stuff like that. But for me, growing up, I do remember going to a river to pick up some water, fetch some water, and bring it to my grandparents, and that wasn't really a bad thing. Walking a distance to fetch some water could be considered from some people as exercising, right? Without budgeting to go to the gym, isn't it? Yeah, some people might disagree with me, but that's what I believe. But that should not be a factor for someone to associate Africa with poverty, right? Yeah, we can disagree on that one, but that's my view. Also, to this date, most of Africans still tend to the small farms to feed their families and communities. And this might actually kind of like lead them to be eating less genetically modified food, right? Over here, I see things such as like everyone amongst my friends, we are all trying to have gardens in our backyards, obviously like trying to go back into those ways where these Africans are still actually, that's their current lifestyles, isn't it? Yeah. So when we talk about first and third, when we talk about developed and developing, when we consider all these little elements, what does actually outside, the fact that, developed nations, apparently from my Googling, are generally the nations that are categorized as more industrialized and have higher per capita income levels. And then so developing nations obviously should mean the opposite. Cool, I agree with that. That's the definition of it all. But who came up with that? Yeah, who decided that's what developing and developed, countries should be like? What were the criterias? Because right now we are obviously way advanced in this Western world than Africans. But if we are trying to go back to the lifestyle which they have kept, so for me, I found that a little bit confusing and obviously a question mark, right? So I hope like you enjoying what we're talking about. Because we're going to carry on with similar things, but we're going to go deep now and come back to the headline of this show, which is the legacy of the colonizer. Every African country has been colonized. Not every, except Ethiopia. Yay. But personally, I'm from Burundi, which is in Central Africa, and we were colonized by Belgium. After Germany was there, after Arabs were there, like the legacy that we got from the Belgium country, like that still is evident is the language, right? We speak French in Burundi, like every institution. You go to offices, we study in French and everything. Even though Kirundi is the mother language, it's only spoken when you come back home. You go to school, you go to work, you speak French. When you come back home, then you speak Kirundi. And I still found a little bit of an imbalance, on that, at that point, because for me, when I grew up in Burundi and I was going to school and I was doing all these things, I was speaking this language that was left by the colonizer. But if you were to go to Belgium, how many people will be able to speak Kirundi though? How many people will be able to actually communicate proper in that language? That I found like it's an unfair relationship between these two countries. Not even getting deeper into the fact that there are so many things that have been exploited out of Burundi to benefit people, to benefit the country, Belgium, but when we're not getting anything back in return. I want to talk about how sometimes, the maybe I'm jumping some hooks right here. Yes, so I'm talking about the language, and this is not only for Burundi, it's for other different countries of Africa that might have been colonized by Britain, and they speak the English language. Like Nigeria, Ghana, Zimbabwe, they all have their own, mother languages. And they, on the top of that, they speak English. But none of that, you can't find a British person in the UK speaking Shona. Nor can you find anyone in the UK speaking a language from Ghana, right? For me, this is also the purpose of the show, to be able to speak to some people and say, look, Karen, if I was to speak to you and you see me on the street, yeah, and you're going to judge me, before you judge me as an alien or a monkey because of the color of my skin, please understand that I speak more than English, yeah? I just told you I speak French because I grew up speaking French. I've got also Kirundi, which is my mother language. And there is also Swahili where I can, ask for water, you know what I mean? So Karen, when you see me on the street, don't you dare judge me because I have more languages than you. I have experienced more cultures than you. I have moved from one continent to the other. So before you get to that state where you are like, oh my God, I'm better than you. Oh my God, I'm superior than you. I just want to invite you to actually do this trip that I did. You go back to Burundi, take a plane, go to Burundi, spend like 15 years there, study there, get into knowing the culture, get to knowing the people, get to knowing some friends, survive there without a sugar daddy, yeah? Not a sugar mommy, okay? Because that's not what happened here with me. So I'm going to invite you to do that, right? And then after 15 years and you see me on the street, yes, we are at the same level. Now you can talk to me and now you can actually disgrace me if you want to because you have had the same experience as I did. But currently, Karen, you got no foot to stand on, yeah? Because if I was to go with the same standards of yours, I am superior to you, okay? You should be actually bowing down to me because of what I've got and what I have gone through, right? Just a little bit of like side living right now. So I want to invite you who are out there to check out this amazing lady called Dr. Arikana Chihombori. She's born in Zimbabwe from Ghanaian parents. She's a medical doctor and activist. She's a public speaker. She's a diplomat. She is the ex-African Union ambassador in the States. And she's been really leading this project called Wakanda, trying to build some cities in Africa, trying to talk to the African in the diaspora to be able to return home, to build their own continent, because she believes that as real leaders of Africa have tried to actually go back and build a united Africa, because she believes that Africa cannot not be built unless all these leaders and all this youth can unite and they can have one voice, they can have one culture. For us to be out of this frame that Africa is also poor, that Africa is harsh. This one actually gets me so much, that Africa is a land of diseases. Yeah, that is painful. Yeah, because some books out there can prove that some of the diseases that African people have endured, it's not because they are monkeys, but it was also something that was cooked in the Western and it was brought into Africa for trials, for them trying to but come up with cures. It's not even a long time ago. Even for COVID-19, we heard that recently, where the first people they chose to go and try them on was Africans, they were Africans. And that when I was here, I almost had a heart attack because I was like, who do I blame? Do I actually blame the African leaders, or is this because the colonizers' hands have not left Africa, right? And the reason why I'm inviting you to look her up, again, Dr. Arikana Chihombori. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. You can catch her on Africa Web TV. There is so many videos. She's done so many interviews. She's done so many speeches about this because she's so passionate about Africa. And she did give an example about France stealing from Africa to this date, yeah? Later on, we're going to get into the concept of what does independence mean, We got our independence as Burundi in the 1960s. So is, the countries that were, colonized by Belgium then. But really, honestly, we have gone through a civil war for the last 2 decades. Why? Why are Burundians killing each other? Yes, we are sitting here. We're going to be like, yeah, those Africans are dumb. They do not know how to lead. They do not know how to look after their natural resources. But really, or is it because there are some power-hungry people, greedy Western leaders that don't give a banana skin to the African children, right? To the African nations. All they want is take, as if it has not been enough. Since the 60s, right, has been war after war after war, just because they are creating cultural and political distractions for people, the local people, to be fighting each other whilst they are actually exploiting and taking natural resources that the people, that the locals actually, might find beneficial. A clear example is like in Africa, we have this Lake Tanganyika, and the Lake Tanganyika has been feeding, the local people, right? An average person will wake up in the morning, they will get into a boat, they will go and fish, mukeke, which is one of the fish in Burundi. We love it. We love it. It's just so sad I can't even bring it here because the custom, conditions here are very, very tight, right? So for all this time, this Lake Tanganyika will be feeding the whole of Burundi, or for those average people who can go and get their fish, they can feed their family, or could they choose to actually feed, sell it on the street or sell it and make money, to send their children to school or, for any other, things that they've got going on at their homes. Then we've got, comes a time a few years ago when Lake Tanganyika start being exploited, like drilling oil out of it. Then you know what that means, isn't it? Then it's going to kill the fish. Then the average person is not going to have a way to look after themselves. Now they have to, to survive, to think about other ways of surviving. So these are all backgrounds that I would love for us to be discussing later in the show, to actually show you how much, Africa has been suffering and Africa has been contributing to the rest of the world. And then I am like, please at least give Africa its proper value, right? For the sake of all those people that have died because of power and because of greed, for the sake of this family that are dispersed everywhere. I come from a family of 9 children. We're not together. Some are in Europe, some are everywhere, some are still in Burundi, and I'm here. We never chose this, yeah? That was because of the war that does not provide stability in Burundi. So now we have to, just find other parts of the world that is going to allow us to survive and to have a chance at living, right? So bringing it back to that concept that we're talking about, how the colonizer will use cultural, political distractions, into these countries that they have been obviously colonizing to be able to help themselves to the resources, natural resources, minerals, oil, that these countries are rich of. Hence why I am against the idea that Africa is poor, because Africa is not poor. Africa is actually quite rich when you look into it proper. Like one of the countries that we're going to be doing a special edition about, it's called DRC, and that's where I'm from. I'm from Burundi, which is between DRC and Rwanda, and that is probably the reason why for the last 2 decades we've been in a civil war, which me, myself, I don't even understand why we are fighting. You know what I mean? Anyway, we want to use an example of France and basically its involvement from the time they were colonizing certain countries of Africa to date, right? I always wondering why Africa or these countries are always viewed as, a place of diseases, and people who are dirty, people who do not have, the brain capacity to think for themselves, when actually, even when we were to be in a general concept, music from Africa has fed so many genres that we enjoy currently, the culture, the fashion, and everybody now, you want to wear the dashikis, you want to wear these fabrics that are being produced from Africa, now being even produced in China, fake ones, obviously. Africa has been contributing to the world in a way that we actually not aware of, and hence the purpose of this show. Going back to France now, I really would love to share these views that I have, facts that I have heard from Dr. Arikana, whom I've mentioned before, and no one can say it better than her because of her position. Saying it again, she's the ex-African Union ambassador in the States. So we're going to give her a moment for her to tell us France's involvement since the time they decided to give independence to these countries that they were actually colonizing.
The gift that Berlin Conference gave us. One other thing that France did between 1958 and 1961 in the name of giving us our independence as African countries. France forced the Francophone, and I hate that terminology. There is no such thing as Francophone, Anglophone. They made it up. But for the purposes of communication, I will use that. 14 of those countries, they said, in order for you to get your independence from us, you must sign this document. You thought they could have found a better name for the document. The document was called the Pact for the Continuation. I repeat, the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. We are talking about giving you independence, but sign this pact for the continuation of colonization in a different format. And I'm going to highlight some of those issues that they said you must agree to if you are going to be independent. Hello. Maybe we need to redefine the meaning of independence for the French. First, France said, you see, you monkeys, you don't know how to manage your money. We're going to demand that you deposit 85% of your bank reserves with the French Minister of Finance. Under the French Central Bank, under the control of the French Minister of Finance. France is then going to take your 85% bank deposits from each and every one of you. Deposit those funds in the French stock market under the French name. And you may or may not know the returns. Today, as we speak, the latest figures are saying for every 14 billion that France invests in the stock market from Africa, they are realizing upwards of 300 billion in return. Every year in, year out, because of these deposits from the African countries, France is taking out of Africa over $500 billion. Now figure it out. For every 14 billion, the returns on the investment are over 300 billion, and they are taking over 500 billion. So in actuality, France is taking out of Africa trillions of dollars year in and year out. From us poor people, Africans. Back to the pact. So should you want to access some of your money that you have deposited with France, you have to submit your country's financial returns. And if approved, you get to get it as a loan. You can only access up to 20% of your money, year in, year out, as a loan at commercial interest rates. Your own money. As if that was not enough. They said all your minerals discovered, yet to be discovered, all your oil discovered, yet to be discovered. France and French companies have the first right of refusal. If there's anything left over that the French companies do not want, your people might have. To this day. They said you will only use the currency that we created for you because you're special Africans. We call it the CFA. There was the Central African CFA and the Western African CFA, same animal. And that France is the only one that can print it for you. 1958. Fast forward. They're still printing it for us. And if you start misbehaving, they just stop printing your money. And your country's in trouble. They also said your language of instruction shall be French, whether you like it or not. That France will have military presence in your country, that your military can only be trained by France, that you can only buy military equipment from France, that you cannot have any military alliance with your neighbor, and that in the event of war, your allegiance is only to France. And furthermore, because they have military presence in your country, they can invade you without notice should they feel that the interests of France in your country are being violated.
Teach, sister, teach. Speak on, sister.
Fast forward, 2019, nothing has changed. The same people who have the audacity to tell us that we are poor countries, they are taking trillions out of Africa every year.
Now that we have heard about, France and its work, beautiful work in Africa since the time of colonization to now, I want to say that France, you've been found guilty, and now the solution is that you take your hands out of the African pie. Thank you so very much for being tuned into the African Mirror. If you have loved it, please follow us. All the things are going to be on the screen where you can catch us. Next time we will be, we are broadcasting from New Zealand, Aotearoa, and I want to give a big thanks to my crew who is here with me, and I'm looking forward to hearing back your feedback, your comments. If you disagree with some, please do get in touch with us, but most importantly, keep the hate out of it, because that's not what we are here to do. We're not here to point fingers. We are not here to point fingers, nor are we here to express hate towards you, because at the end of the day, if really Africans were people who were hating on other people, we will actually have the capacity to hate because of what we have gone through. I am here and my crew is here to help us understand what actually Africa is, what these countries are, what this continent is, and how much it has contributed to the world. And let us really give Africa its rightful place. And let us educate the Karens to not look down on other people as monkeys or as aliens just because of the skin color. Yeah, because if you were to strip all of us open, we bleed the same. If we need medical attention, it's the same. I promise you, if you go into surgery, they're not going to say, oh, this is an African person, they've got different type of livers or different type of stomach. It's the same. So please, Karen, educate yourself. Thank you for lending me your ears. I will see you next time. You were with your DJ host, ORIKoL. See you next time. Bye.